Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford's EDC, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Kubey, and this is the K322, which it's not on the blade, which I thought it was, so that is fun. This is another knife that was purchased by Michael from Sharp & Blade that I get to check out on its way up to him, so big thanks as always for letting me proxy. Without further ado, let's just get right into this. So this is a budget knife. If you know Kubey, you know they make mostly budget pieces. This guy on their website is retailing for $50. They have a couple different colors available. They have an OD green, a blackout version, the version you're seeing here with black G10. They also have coated blades with blue G10, like a coyote brown tan G10, and jade G10 as well. So kind of cool that they have some different options here on their website. And for $50, I'll tell you right now, you're getting a pretty good knife, and you're going to struggle to find something as good as this for $50. Size-wise, you're looking at an overall length of 8.15 inches, so a slightly larger knife than what we're used to seeing from, at least here on my channel. So, benchmade bug out here for comparison, that's not lined up very well. That looks a lot better. We also have our 84mm Victorinox Cadet that I'll bring in. That looks good for you guys. So you can see it's definitely bigger than the bug out. The grip area is certainly much larger, given that it has the finger choil here. Without the finger choil, you're looking at a very similar grip area. Actually, you can see it's essentially the same, but you can see where the Kubey wins in terms of blade length and sharpened edge. With a blade length measuring on this at 3.39 inches, so under 3.5 if that matters to you, which I don't think there's 3.5-inch laws anywhere, but I'm not a lawyer, so what would I know? This has a nice stonewash finish on it. Handle length on this is 4.76 inches, and I think I said the overall length, but if I didn't, it's 8.15 inches. The blade stock on this guy is 0.12 inches, and it has a nice grind on here, which I'm looking for if they say what kind of grind it is, and they don't. But this it does appear to be a flat grind. Looking down here, I don't see any signs of it being a hollow grind, but it's such a tall flat grind. This comes really thin here at the edge, and it cuts really well. This knife in hand is, well, I'll have to get another knife here to show you this, which I wasn't planning on doing, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm making a mess. Alright, give me 1 second. Alright, after sending shit flying everywhere, I have what I needed here, which is the Koenig Arius. You can see there's been some clear inspiration here for design. I don't have to say it. It's very obviously the closest thing to a Chinese knockoff of an Arius that you're going to get that's not claiming to be an Arius or a clone or anything like that, but it certainly is design inspired, you might want to say. Where I was going with this is ergonomics and the overall shape. It clearly takes inspiration here from the Arius, which of course is a $700+ USA made, extremely high-end production piece. These are made in batches and kind of hard to get. So Kubey is bringing in something similar here for $50 in far lesser materials, of course, but what do you expect for $50? Now, it's actually really well done, this knife. It's on bearings. It has crazy good action, which you can see if I can't even get my thumb out of the way in time with how this drops shut. It almost closes itself, which if you missed it with the Arius just a minute ago, does close itself. So really impressive to get this kind of action out of a $50 knife. That's similar to that of that was $800 that I paid on the secondary market. I believe those are in the mid 700s with the textured titanium. But the D10 is good on this. The ergos are solid. That's a nice and tall handle. Like, it's not very thick in this direction. The width isn't that thick, but it's tall, and it makes it really comfortable in hand. The handle thickness is just over half an inch at 0.051, which is a little bit thick for me compared to what I normally would like in a knife, but I never noticed any issues with this in the pocket. In the pocket, it doesn't take up a ton of room. It's tall, but it's not super tall. There's definitely Spydercos and other knives that are much taller than this in places that people carry all the time, and this never really gave me any problems. The flipper tab is nice with this little design here to get in there and just kind of light switch it down. And the finger choil is very functional, plenty of room to get in there with the front end of your finger anyway. Any more than that, you're kind of riding up on the blade, which is obviously not comfortable, but it feels comfy in the hand either way. Whether you have the whole hand back here or you're choked up, not really much to complain about there. As I said, action's good. The grind is nice and thin, as I had mentioned, which does make this cut really well. This is D2, so it's not the best steel. For 50 bucks, I'd like to see a better version of this come out. Maybe something, maybe just some changes with micarta, or maybe an not LC200N, the 14C 28N kind of a blade. Like, let's see some stainless options, Like, D2's not, unless you're like Kevin from Lefty EDC, you're probably not going to rust it. Unless you're in a real humid environment, things like that would cause blades like D2 to rust. Now, something I'm realizing I failed to mention was the weight of this knife. It is heavy, but you would never really know that it weighs what it does, which is 4.91 ounces. It's not really a surprise when you start thinking, okay, yeah, there's steel liners and a big D2 blade and big, G10 scales. You can see the thickness of the liners and scales here. But there is a surprising amount of skeletonization on the inside, which you can see it here on the bottom. You can see those dark spots. It's really not much in terms of leftover material. You can see they've really hogged a lot out, just kind of left structural pieces going across the handle there, up at the top here, as well as looks like one going right down the center. And then this side with the lock has also been hollowed out a little bit to reduce that weight. You can see the pocketing there. So this certainly could have been a much heavier knife, but they did go through the effort to lighten this up as much as possible, and you really don't notice the weight. As I said, it's close to 5 ounces, being 4.91, but you really don't notice it. It carries very light compared to what it says its weight is. Another feature that some people like, some people don't like, is this fuller. You can't really use it, but it's an aesthetic choice more than anything, because if you're going to be flicking down here, you're just going to use the hole. You're not going to use the fuller. But just kind of a cool little aesthetic thing that I feel like is worth mentioning. That is also a present design feature on the Arius, but in this case it's behind the hole instead of in front of it, so some more inspiration there. Now, feel how you will about the inspiration, so to speak, of the design here, with Kubey being clearly influenced by Koenig here. I don't think Koenig's business is getting hurt at all by the existence of this knife, but it's not really fair to Koenig for their design to be not stolen, but kind of made cheaply in a very similar style to their knife. So that's where I'm going to leave my opinions on that. You're free to share what you think about that in the comments, or don't. It doesn't really matter to me. My final thoughts on this knife are, if you have 50 bucks and you want a fantastic budget knife, get one. If you like the design, it's fantastic. The action's really great. The D10 is great. One little tiny issue this has, which I just noticed picking it back up, is there's a touch of D10 lash. But I got a feel for it. This, you're not going to even see it. it's moving. I can feel it, but it's so close to breaking the detent at that point that it's not really much of a problem. I had no real complaints about this knife. It carries well, deep carry clip. The ergos, as I said, are solid, as I missed the flip. It's really comfortable in hand. If you're really going to bear down on it, you might feel that pocket clip, but it really never was a problem for me. The grind thins out nicely, so it cut with no issues, and overall was just a nice knife to use. And so I'm happy with this. I mean, this is my first real experience with Kubey, and I couldn't be happier. And I've heard great things about some of their other knives. So I'm excited to check out more in the future, and I'm excited to get this one over to Michael to see his thoughts about it too. So that is where I'm going to leave this one off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Share your thoughts on Kubey and whatever else in the comments. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. So have a great rest of your day, and take care.